Joining me now is Congresswoman Karen Bass of California and Yusuf Salaam, one of the exonerated Central Park Five and co-author of Punching the Air. Very honored to have both of you here. Congresswoman, I do want to start with you because you were one of the architects in a bill introduced last Congress. It was the policing bill, and that would ban the qualified immunity and no-knock warrants. Now that Dems control the upper chamber as well, what does the Democratic Party plan to do about policing in this country?
Well, we certainly plan to move forward. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed the House of Representatives and was led in the Senate by then Senator Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. And so we definitely plan to be back at it. I know that the administration is going to issue executive orders on policing, and so it is very exciting that we have an administration to work with this time around.
So, that's one of the things that I often find myself in conversations about, Congresswoman. So many people say, well, what is the CBC doing? What is the Black Caucus doing? What are Democrats doing? And I don't think people understand that last Congress, the Republicans controlled the upper chamber. So things would pass the House but fall flat in the Senate. So given that, now that you talk about the George Floyd and Police Act, what role do you see Congress playing in just even wider legislation, given that a lot of these issues rest at the local level?
Well, first of all, we know policing is the beginning in order to transform our criminal justice system. So much work needs to be done. And I do feel very good that we will have a partner in the Senate this time. So bills that were even passed with bipartisan support languished on Mitch McConnell's desk. But, when the federal government takes initiative, a lot of times that leads to change on the state and the local level. And given the mass movement that erupted after George Floyd's torture and murder, we saw a lot of changes in a lot of different states and on local levels as well. And then at the end of the day, the federal government controls the purse strings. So I think that there's a lot of influence that the federal government can have.
Yusuf, I want to turn to you. First of all, I'm so happy you're here and excited that you are a free man today, brother. So thank you for joining me. I have to say, me looking at that imagery, seeing these four Black people held at gunpoint, and then looking at how the violent insurrectionists were treated on Capitol Hill, it's nothing new. We all understand how this country works, and we're all actively trying to change it. But I'm curious, given your unique situation, given that the leader of the free world, so to speak, once called for your execution, how that imagery resonates with you.
What it reminded me of as I watched it over and over again, and even today, it looked like slave catchers. It looked like the juxtaposition of seeing people who have the complexion for acceptance at the Capitol, rioting, pushing their way through, almost doing terrorist acts, right alongside a family being put on the ground, all of them, the mother, father, children, everybody. It is the most despicable imagery that we can see in America, because we realize that the system that we are under has continued, and the leader of the so-called free world back then, Donald Trump, his whole process was to make sure that white supremacy, white male dominance continue to stay in power. And that's where we're at. We're really at fighting spiritual wickedness in high and low places, because the people who are there to protect and serve are not protecting and serving everyone. We live in the divided states of America as opposed to the United States of America. Today is a new day. I'm excited about what this new administration represents and how we are moving forward with that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about it. I mean, we've seen white prisoners get organic food delivered. We've seen a white woman who tried to sell a laptop, accused of trying to sell a laptop to Russians, of all people, get released on bail. So let's pretend that somebody from the administration is watching right now. Let's pretend that President Joe Biden is watching this program. Ambassador Susan Rice, who is overseeing the Domestic Policy Council, the scuttlebutt is that they will be coming out with more police reform this week. Assuming they're watching right now, what is something, Yusuf, that you would like to say to them to include in whatever policing plan they come out with, which I'm told will include a policing commission?
You know, the biggest thing that I think I would love to say to the administration at this particular point in time is we need reform that will usher in things that will not be able to be changed or taken away. You know, far too often it's 2 steps forward, 15 steps back. But the things that are being put in place, I believe, should be things that are solid structures, unable to be moved, as long as they represent true freedom, justice, and equality for all of us. Because the beautiful thing about what the presidency represents and what the government represents is that it doesn't just it's not just the president of Black folks, it's the president for all people in America. And here we are. And we want the ability to be able to dream with our eyes wide open in the era of a Dr. King, right? We want to be able to dream that impossible dream, have the best of the best afforded to us in America, for it to be across the board and not for some and deprived from others. And far too long, since we've been brought to this country, many of us in shackles, we have been denied that type of treatment where our humanity has been looked at as being sacred. In the founding fathers' statement, when they created America as it is now, they said, "We the people." And we were not considered part of that. We were still considered 3/5 of a human being. And I think the beautiful thing, like I said, is that this new administration, I believe, is ushering in change that will be so magnificent that we will go from being in the trash heap of the world to being back on top, being back as the example of what could be. And the great thing about it is that in certain spaces in America, there are already reforms happening, there are already changes happening that will signify how we all can be able to receive that and be able to live beautifully, happily, and respectfully.
The fact that you remain so optimistic and have this positive spirit and outlook and energy on this panel gives me hope, Yusuf. So thank you for coming on the show. Police unions, that's a big deal, and use of force. Those are 2 big issues that I think will definitely have to be tackled as we look at police commissions. So thank you so much, Congresswoman Karen Bass of California. You know I'll have you back. And Yusuf Salaam, you'll have to come back as well.